Hello and welcome to tonight's workshop, Prototyping with Generate. This workshop is brought to you by Pathfinder. Pathfinder is an extracurricular program for incoming first and second year Northeastern students, and we provide a safe and inclusive space for students to discuss and pursue their passions. If you haven't already joined Pathfinder, we'll put the link in the chat to join. If you would like to be a moderator, which is open to 3rd, 4th, 5th, and recent graduates of Northeastern, that link will also go into the chat. And lastly, we'll put the link in for our website, so you can check out more information about the program. We are looking forward to tonight's workshop here with Generate. Our next one will be with Scout, so make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter and also check out the website for more information when it's announced. And I'll pass it over to Generate.
Perfect. So we are Generate, a student-led product development studio on campus and a program of the Sherman Center. So to jump into things, the format of tonight is essentially going to go, we're going to give a quick pitch and overview of Generate. Then we're going to jump into a panel where we have people from a variety of Generate teams. We have a couple questions prepared for them, and then we'll have a few minutes after for questions for the audience. Okay, let's jump into it. So what is Generate? We work on real problems and create real solutions. And so we essentially recruit and take on clients from a wide variety of disciplines and do product development work for them. And what that includes is design of a product or solution, building a prototype, testing and verifying that prototype, and then delivering a functional prototype or deliverable that meets clients' expectations. So to give an example of a past IDEA project called Cruise Control, Cruise Control is a member of the IDEA program and went to Generate to help accelerate their product and business development. And so what Generate was able to do for them is essentially build a minimum viable product known as an MVP that they were then able to put on Kickstarter to help crowdfund and generate pre-market sales to help kick off their company, which is super exciting. So Generate is a program of the Sherman Center, and the Sherman Center is a center for engineering and entrepreneurship on campus that has also a wide variety of programs. And so in there, there's Generate, which is a product development studio, Rev, which is resources for engineering and ventures, the Sherman Co-op, entrepreneurial engineering minor, and and the events where they put on leadership series and a bunch of other courses. So Generate can be located at a variety of different places. You can follow Generate at GenerateNU on Facebook, on Instagram, email us at generate@northeastern.edu, and follow us online if you have any questions and to look more into us. So to jump into things, we're gonna move to our panel. And so we have 3 panelists who are gonna be here, Thomas, Aya, and Amal. Thomas, do you want to kick things off and introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So hi, I'm Thomas. I am the software client specialist at Generate this semester. I've been a part of Generate for the past 6 of the past 7 semesters. So I've been on the build studio, and now I'm in the outreach side of things. I'm a ECE 4th year. I'm on my 3rd co-op right now at HubSpot. Kick it over to Amal, a little introduction.
Oh yeah, thanks, Thomas. This is just my 2nd semester at Generate. I'm currently the hardware specialist, client specialist, and last semester I joined in on outreach as a software client specialist. So this is just my 2nd semester at outreach, currently I'm a master's student in the Align program and just graduated Northeastern.
Yeah.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Aya. I'm currently the community director for Generate. I've been in Generate in their freshman program way back when through their build studio outreach, and now I'm on management.
Awesome. And to top things off, I'm Alex. I am the current external relations lead at Generate. I was also a path client management lead and hardware client manager. So to jump into questions, what does the panel think is or would like to elaborate on is the structure of Generate? And could you elaborate on your experience in each of your respective teams? Aya, do you want to start with this one?
Yeah, sure. So the way Generate works is there is a build studio side, and that build studio side has two sides to it. There's the engineering and then there's the software. And then on the non-build studio side, there is outreach, community, which is the newest team. It was only made this semester, and operations. So operations, basically, they do all of like the paperwork, all of like the organization of the org. Community kind of enhances the community of students in the org. Outreach does a lot of the branding, a lot of the social media, and the Build Studio engineering team does the clients and like the client engineering projects. Right now, like I said, I am part of the management team, which is at the top. They kind of like lead the whole thing, and they lead certain columns of the org. And I am in charge of the community side. Is there anything else I need to answer for this question?
Great job. So Thomas, do you want to elaborate a little more about the Build Studio?
Yeah, for sure. So I've been on, I kind of spoke to the separation between software build studio and hardware build studio. I have most of my experience on the software side of things. I've been on a couple of build studio teams there, so I can talk about the structure of those. It's pretty analogous to like what you'll find in sort of a real world software team out in the wild. But there's usually a project lead whose primary sort of role is to talk to the client for the semester, and also like communicate those goals from their side of things over to the team. And recently there's also a technical lead for software projects, and their role is to kind of work with the client a little bit, but primarily the project lead to take those clients' requests and goals and basically delegate those tasks to the team itself. So the team is made up of between 4 and 7 or 8 build studio engineers, depending on the project and the scope. But yeah, that's sort of the structure of a team, at least on the software side of things. I think the only difference for hardware is that there isn't always a tech lead for each project. But yeah.
Awesome. To move into the next question, Amal, would you like to address what drew you to get involved in Generate?
Sorry, I was muted. Yeah, for sure. What drew me to Generate was that I'm pretty relatively new to Generate. This is only my second semester, but last semester when I applied, I had heard a lot of great experiences from friends who were currently working in Generate, and they had basically explained to me, and I've slowly also found out, is that Generate is a very inclusive community and consists of people from a variety of skill sets and from a variety of backgrounds. It supports entrepreneurs with a variety of product development needs and ideas. And so what drew to me applying to Generate was that I wanted to be part of Generate, especially part of the outreach team currently, and I wanted to contribute towards that community. So it's Generate is more than just a build studio, as I explained. There's also non-build studio, which has a lot of opportunities for people to apply for that don't have like a build studio background.
Awesome. Would anyone else like to also elaborate on their experience and what got them interested in joining Generate?
I guess I can add a little bit. So I started out as a build studio engineer. And the reason I stuck around so long is less so because of the technical skills I gained, and definitely more so because of the people I met. Everyone was really nice, really welcoming. And it was really nice to have a network of upperclassmen engineers to be friends with, I think. And that's one of the reasons why after several semesters on Generate, Generate Build Studio, I ended up joining recruitment and then being the community director after that. I just wanted to enhance the community I was a part of.
Awesome. And so this next question is more applicable for Thomas and Aya, but did either of you come in with technical experience when you joined Generate? And how did Generate help you build that technical experience if you didn't come in with it?
Yeah, so I can start. So I did not have very much technical experience at all when I joined Generate. I was in my second semester of freshman year, and I was actually a completely different major than what I am now. So obviously I didn't have a ton of like product development hands-on experience from high school. Yeah. So what was the second part of it was?
Essentially, what have you learned so far, and how has Generate helped you improve those skills?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, everything I now know came from Generate. No, I think the biggest thing that I've learned being a part of Generate, aside from like the technical skills that you learn just working on new projects, right? Like being a software projects, learning new softwares, new techniques for solving unique problems, stuff like that. Those are all great. But the experience that I've really found valuable was like working in a team that kind of models itself after a real world team. That has transferred very easily over to the co-ops that I've been on. And those skills of like communicating deadlines with sort of direct managers, and communicating, like working on a project for 4 to 6 months, which is fairly long term, depending on the industry, with a number of other engineers. Those communication skills that you kind of pick up naturally, I think have been the most valuable for me.
Awesome. Then to move on to the next question, it might be more applicable for Aya, but how would you view that Generate fosters an entrepreneurial community in Generate, which I personally think is core to the Generate culture?
I think it helps to foster an entrepreneurial environment, definitely through the build studio side. And like Thomas said, even if you aren't on the build studio side, you definitely get that experience of working in, like, I don't want to say like a company, but like the way that the structure is, it's very professional, and you kind of get that like exposure to like a structured organization, I guess is the best way to put it, in a way that a lot of like clubs at Northeastern don't really give you. And yeah, I think we have a lot of opportunities for people that aren't even like on the build studio to like learn about the development process, the product development process. Like we have design reviews throughout the semester. We have an all hands, which is like kind of like a tabling event where all of the engineering teams can kind of walk everyone through the projects that they've made, and we have a showcase at the end of the semester. So it definitely is an interesting way to get to see how products are made, and also an interesting way to see how an organization, like a structured organization, is run. I think in a way that you can't really find anywhere at Northeastern, anywhere else.
Awesome. And to move on, oh, Thomas, do you have something to add?
Yeah, I might tack onto that just a little bit. Everything that Aya said, I fully agree with. But a part to kind of that we haven't touched on as much is like everyone in Generate, or most people in Generate, sort of join without a ton of technical experience, but they have that entrepreneurial mindset. So something that Generate does a couple of things in the Sherman Center at large to sort of support that and foster it, where they provide some level of support for like funding for the projects, but they also have a wide variety of like upperclassmen who are part of Generate or who have knowledge about X, Y, and Z. And having those resources within the community to sort of reach out to makes it a lot easier for people with that entrepreneurial mindset and with those goals to achieve the goals without having all the technical knowledge in the world to start, which I think is really cool.
Awesome. So to move to the next question, I would love for each of you to elaborate on how you found balancing Generate with your coursework of well-being on co-op. Because I know that's often something that's concerned in an organization that can often be a large time commitment, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I can go. Sorry. Well, being part of the outreach team for 2 semesters, at least from the perspective from the outreach team, I would say it's just a time commitment of like 5 to 10 hours per week, and I feel that's very, very doable with other coursework and other extracurriculars. I personally have not had a major. Maybe it's I think the most time I spent like where I found it hard was when it was like lunchtime, we had to recruit clients towards the end of the semester. But other than that, well, which was a given, but other than that, it was pretty manageable with everything else.
Yeah, I can sort of give my 2 cents. So I find like managing sort of the time commitment is one thing. Everyone sort of has their own methods of like building 5 to 10 hours into their schedule. So that's like a whole nother can of worms. But as far as when times come up where I might not have enough time in the day to generate things, I found that like focusing on communicating that with sort of the rest of your team and with your project leads and with whoever else is involved with those sort of like soft deadlines can be super helpful. And like Aya said about the community, everyone is super nice and super understandable. And like, we're all students, right? Some of us are working part-time, some of us are in classes at the same time as being part of Generate. So everyone's very understanding about time management like that. So really like communicating upwards is something that has made that sort of process way easier. It's also a very transferable skill to like anything you do that involves collaborating with other people. So it's good.
Awesome.
Oh, I was going to add on to that. I was going to say, like, definitely 100% agree that Generate, I think, does a really good job of making sure that every student in the org knows that they're a student first before a Generate member. Like, I'm pretty sure it's literally in our like agreement contract that if you think you're overwhelmed by the amount of work, or if you're just like busy one week, maybe you have a midterm, that like you will communicate it with whoever your superior is. So that way nobody gets too overwhelmed. And honestly, like, I know this is gonna sound so cheesy, but you know how they say, like, if you love the work you do, it's not really work. Like, I feel like Generate is that for me, because I don't know, I kind of like do Generate work to get away from my homework. I think it's a lot more fun. So
awesome. Yeah, definitely so true. And building on that, there are some awesome opportunities inside Generate that aren't necessarily as academic or engineering driven, which is kind of cool too. Okay. For the next question, would each of you like to touch on how Generate has prepared you or maybe helped you in the co-op process, and either with preparing you for your co-op or giving you a more professional setting to give you insight on what the work culture would be when you actually went on co-op?
Yeah, I can start. So I was a part of Generate sort of before my first co-op, and now I'm on my third co-op, and I've been involved since then. So, I mean, as far as the hiring process and the co-op search process and all of that goes, it's really nice once you kind of are in Generate for one semester or a few semesters, you build sort of like a projects section of your resume. So if you want to think about it like that, it's great from that perspective, but that also provides you like easy talking points in any interview or anything like that. And then that naturally sort of leads you into all of the transferable skills that you gain being part of Generate. So working in a team has been like the biggest one that I've found has been super helpful on co-op, is like once you're already used to the process of like communicating when things go wrong and communicating what you're working on, working together towards like an end MVP or something like that, and working on something long term and like developing the skills that it requires to sort of have that longer term vision. Those are all things that are just expected of you on a lot of co-ops and in a lot of real world situations. So after being a part of Generate for a semester or a few, you kind of naturally gain those. And I think they're really helpful for pretty much any co-op.
Awesome. Okay, to move on to our last question, it would be great if each of you can elaborate on what the most valuable thing you believe you gained from your involvement in Generate, whether it's technical knowledge, the community, anything along those lines.
I'm pausing to let Amal or Aya go first if you want. If not,
I can go first. So I think the most important thing that I gained from Generate is definitely the community. I know that's so typical. I'm literally the community director, but I think it's really valuable, I think, to have a bunch of people that have like the shared experience of being an engineering student. It helps you like network. You can build out like co-ops that you want to apply to, or like post-grad jobs that you want to apply to. And even for the students in Generate that aren't engineers, it's great to have like a method of like a method and a space to hang out with people. I mean, like obviously we can't really hang out in person anymore, but like hanging out in the like the Sherman Center, hanging out in the Generate Makerspace, like it's where I've had some of my favorite memories from college. So just having it for a professional / technical network has been really, really helpful when I'm looking for co-ops and like deciding what engineering career path I want to go down. But it's also just helpful to have a really big network of friends.
Also, just to touch on that, I did put together an awesome retreat this weekend for an entire day worth of Generate-centric activities. So that's one thing we do at least once a semester now, and it's awesome to see, and it was super fun to be a part of. So we do some of that stuff too. Amal or Thomas, are there any things you would like to add?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I can go ahead. From the 2 semesters of Generate at the outreach team, I've never been in a recruitment role before, or had to deal with the needs of clients before. I've had very few experiences like that on co-op, but nothing to this extent. So I've learned a lot in terms of recruitment, reaching out to clients, making sure that they have their needs satisfied, and also learning how to recruit the right type of clients for Generate, which is if that's something you're interested in, it's a pretty valuable skill if you want to get into recruitment or HR or something like that. Well, it's not just recruitment. I also like met a lot of people from various different backgrounds, and also talking to people like in the build studio, pretty curious about the build studio itself. I'm considering applying there. So if I hadn't joined Generate, I wouldn't have even thought about the build studio or something like that, or a career in that path. So yeah, it's given a lot for me to think and a lot to offer as well.
Yeah, I touched on some of like the technical skills and the communication skills and stuff that I feel like I've gained from Generate that have been super valuable. But I think Aya hit the nail on the head when she said that the most important, like the most valuable part of it really is the community and the network that you build, especially now as Generate has grown so much over the last couple of years. Like that, it basically is a place where everyone within the community and that ongoing network is like very entrepreneurially minded, right? They have that same sort of mindset to like go out and build things. So no matter what you're going out and building, like for the rest of your life, you pretty much have a growing network that you can always reach back to with some level of confidence that people in the network will be interested in whatever you're doing. So that's like infinitely applicable. And I think it's something that'll stay with us much longer than Northeastern. So that's the most valuable part of it.
Awesome. And on that note, I think we're going to conclude questions for the panel and want to open up questions for the audience. Is there anything you guys would like to ask or have us elaborate on about Generate?
Well, I have a question really quick. I know a lot of our listeners are first or second year students, might be looking to like have an entry level position in Generate. I was just curious if some of you could speak to what those positions might look like, especially for students who might not be decided on their major or have like a lot of interdisciplinary interests.
Well, isn't that a great segue to pub this new program that Generate, or the Sherman Center, which is the center that houses Generate, is created by a good friend of mine. It's called Forge. It's basically like Generate, but for pre-co-op students. So if you want to gain those like leadership skills, those technical skills, but you're like kind of like intimidated by Generate, or you just aren't really quite sure whether engineering is your thing, or you don't think you have the time commitment, like definitely check it out. The organizational structure is very similar to what Generate is. So think of it as like getting your feet wet, especially like specifically for students that haven't gone on co-op yet.
Awesome. And then to touch on quickly the Generate side of things, definitely, I know a lot of people on our panel here had joined Generate's build studio even as a first or second year. And so that's definitely an opportunity if you want to get into more high intensity product development role. And there's also a bunch of opportunities on other Generate teams, including outreach, community, operations, that all take entry-level roles and students getting into university who aren't sure yet if that's maybe their path, to give them some experience, which is super cool.
Yeah, one more thing to tack onto that, specifically to like the build studio side. And I know that we wanted to focus a little bit more on people who aren't on the technical side of things, but a big focus for the build studio in general is sort of hiring the best people who will have like the most room for growth. So it's very, very common that we actually seek out and hire people with slim to no technical experience who have that sort of drive to gain a lot of experience, right? So I definitely would encourage people to apply no matter what sort of your level of experience is. There's no real requirement, you know, it's not a job. So.
And then I think Neon posted asking about a link to Forge. Okay, perfect. I was going to get that for you. Cool. Does anyone have any other questions?
Hi, I'm Catherine. I'm a second year bioengineering major, and I just had a question about, or if you guys could just talk a little bit what the application process is for Generate, or the recruitment process.
Sure. So, or Thomas, do you want to hit it?
I was going to ask a clarifying question, if that was on the build studio side of things or on like the general non-build studio organization.
Yeah, sorry. I guess the build studio.
Okay. If you want to go for it, Alex, go for it. If not, I'm happy.
Well, you went through the process, so maybe you're more equipped.
Yeah. So typically we'll post applications at some point in the spring or in the summer. But how that usually goes is the same group of project leads and management people who are already in Generate will basically interview all of the clients and interview all of the potential engineers at the same time. And then we'll basically look at the clients that we have and the applicants that we have and pick the best matches. So that's kind of our high level thought process. But as far as like the actual application process, you fill out the application. A lot of it is like about your background, like from a non-technical perspective. You like will submit. It's really just a Google form. Like you'll submit your resume and all that stuff, and then sort of you'll hear back about an interview, and it'll be like a one-time interview, maybe two in some circumstances. But those will basically be with like the project leads and like the other people on the management team. And yeah, it's a pretty standard interview process. It's pretty cut and dry. And then once we have everything out, and sort of go through the hiring process like that, like normal.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Do we have any last remaining questions?
I have one if we want to just use it to wrap up. So Pathfinder is a lot about first and second years and kind of figuring things out in the beginning when you're at Northeastern. So if somebody wants to talk about your first year at Northeastern, like what you came in with your major, if that's still your major, what you wish you knew when you started out at Northeastern, stuff like that.
So I came into Northeastern as a bioengineering major, which is what I still am. But bioengineering, especially at Northeastern, is like really, really broad. There's a bunch of different concentrations you can go into, and like there's so many different paths you can go down it. And I didn't really know what exactly I wanted to do with bioengineering, but Generate was definitely integral in helping me figure out that I wanted to do like medical devices. specifically like fabrication and early prototyping, which is what I ended up getting a co-op for, was like fabricating medical devices in a research lab, because it was basically exactly what Generate did. And a lot of the technical skills specifically that I learned in Generate were really transferable to my second co-op. So shout out to Generate for helping me find that path. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, with that, I think we can conclude. And if anyone has any questions, definitely feel free to reach out to me or anyone else on this panel, and we'll happily be able to answer them. Awesome.
All right, thank you, Generate, and thank you, Alex, for moderating. We will send you a email with your content on demand and with a survey. So we'd love to hear your feedback. And thank you so much for all of our listeners and viewers. I think that's all we have for tonight. Yeah, let us know if you have questions.
Awesome.
Okay, bye-bye, good night.
You guys.
Pathfinder meets every week for roundtable discussions. We also meet weekly for workshops just like this one. So check out our Google Calendar and join in next time. Thank you so much and have a great day.